firm in your faith. What's interesting is that my text is taken from John chapter 11. John chapter 11. And it is the story of Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. Interesting, because last Sunday was actually Easter, when Jesus himself, we marked the resurrection of Jesus. And now I'm talking about Jesus while on the earth raising Lazarus. Lazarus and his family were close friends of Jesus. Lazarus took ill gravely. And of course, the family sent word to Jesus, who at that time was in Jerusalem. And when they were gone, unfortunately, Lazarus dies. And so we're going to read from somewhere. So that's John chapter 11. And I'm going to read, I believe, from verse 17. From verse 17. From verse 17, when Jesus... Actually, let me read a couple of verses before there. Verse 14. So Jesus told them plainly, I'm reading from the New Living Translation, Lazarus is dead, and for your sakes, I am glad I wasn't there. For now, you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let's go too and die with him. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. And Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask. And Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. And Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. And anyone who believes in me will live, even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this, Martha? Yes, Lord, she told him. I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, the teacher is here and wants to see you. So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you placed him? He asked. They told him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. I'm going to stop there for a moment, and we can go further in a bit. So here we are, this family who are friends of Jesus, who prior to that time, we've seen Jesus go to their home and relax with them. And even after the raising of Lazarus, they went back there. They're close friends. We see Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus and Martha running around to take care of Jesus' physical needs. And now their brother was ill. They sent for the Messiah. They sent for Jesus because they believed that Jesus could heal their brother. They must have themselves witnessed some of such healings that Jesus had done in the past and had countless stories of what Jesus was doing, healing and delivering many. But here we see when Jesus arrives, Martha says to Jesus, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. That is faith. That is faith in Jesus as the Son of God. She herself said, I know that you are the Messiah, the Son of God. And she displays her faith by her statement. If you'd been here, it would have been a different story, Master. But you didn't come soon enough. As different scholars arguing, what does she mean? Is she saying that was that a rebuke? I don't think it's a rebuke. I think it was just, a grieving sister expressing herself. I don't think she was rebuking Jesus for coming late. And if indeed, as we hear later on that Lazarus had been buried 4 days, we can sum up, we can do the maths work, I think, and know that Lazarus must have died shortly after the messengers left to go call Jesus. And perhaps that could give us an understanding of why Jesus didn't come straight away. Number one. Number two, earlier on, before the verses that we read, Jesus had said, this sickness will not lead to death. Even though he knew by the Spirit of God that Lazarus was dead. He said, it will not result in death, but that rather it shall be for the glory of God. So, but anyway, we move on. It says, I know. Then she makes another statement that really takes one by, Lazarus has been buried 4 days. And after she said, if he had been here, my brother would not have died. Then she goes on to say, I know that even now, wow, I know that even now, God will give you whatever you ask. What a massive faith statement. Or is it not? Isn't it so that we can read from this that even though things are so bleak that perhaps Martha has not lost all hope, but Martha was grieving as well. And so we don't know for sure. But the amazing thing was that when she goes and calls her sister Mary, who was not there initially, Mary comes and says exactly the same thing. Teacher, if you were here, brother would not have died. Now, these are all people who didn't have, possibly the Old Testament bound in a book or on digital phone to read. They have to just remember what they've been taught in the temple or synagogue or wherever they go and worship. And yet, they can demonstrate in their speech at least such great faith. Such great faith. What follows is different though, but at least they believed Jesus could make a difference. My question to you, my hearer this morning, is, do you believe that Jesus can make the difference in your life, in your situation right now? Whatever you're going through. Do you believe? He's not dead. He's not in Jerusalem. He's right where you are by his Spirit. He is no longer limited by geography. When he walked on earth, he could only be in one place at a time. That was why he said to the disciples in the Gospels, he says, it is needful for me to go away. I will come back and I will live in you. Speaking of the Holy Spirit, the third person of the Trinity. So right where you are, right now, hearing this message, he's with you. In his power, just waiting for you to say, I need you, God. I need a touch from you. I believe that even now, God, you can raise me up. Even now, God, you can give me a breakthrough. I believe that you are the Son of God. I believe you are my Lord. I believe you can bring about a change. These two sisters believed that Jesus possesses the power to heal their brother. They sat and listened to him teach them. And now, it's a bit too late, isn't it? Their brother has been dead and buried now for 4 days. What can come out of this? But when Martha said, even though now I know that if you ask for anything, God will give it to you. And Jesus says, your brother will rise again. Immediately, Martha quips, yes, I know he will rise at the end. Talking of the rising of the saints at the end of age. So often we think we know the mind of God. And so, as a good, possibly Pharisee, she talks about the end of age resurrection. And Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. This is huge. What's going on here? But Martha is grieving. And I have to say here, we must be careful that we do not allow whatever we're going through to so take us over, to so render us incapable of really hearing the voice of God speaking to us. I'm not blaming Martha here. I have gone through bereavement myself, suffered bereavement, and I know what it means to be in pain when you've just lost someone very close to you. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. The Greek word for resurrection is anastasis. Anastasis, meaning literally to stand up. You can have the sense of getting up after one falls. The main thing I want to raise here is the gap between Martha's confession and her real belief. Martha confessed that she believed that even now something can happen. But then she goes swiftly from that to saying that her brother will rise again later. I ask myself, how does my confession correlate with my belief? How far am I willing to believe God? How much faith do we need to receive what we hope for? Another question in my mind as I read this and prepared this is, how do we deal with seeming delay in our prayers being answered? How? Martha is gone, we're here. And we're reading her story that we may learn something. Our faith. This is what Hebrews says. In Hebrews chapter 11, verses 1 to 3, it says, faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see yet. Through faith, the people in the days of old earned a good reputation. By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command. That what we now see did not come from anything that could be seen. Those of you who have read the Bible, when you have time, you read the Bible. If you read on in that chapter 11 of Hebrews, it goes on to catalog many ancient believers who demonstrated their faith in spite of tough challenges, in spite of so many odds, and yet they never gave up. And you, my hearers, the point is this: don't give up. Stand on your faith. It pays nothing to give up. Hold on to the word of God. Hold on to the promises of God. I'm reading a story in the book of Isaiah. In Isaiah chapter 7, Israel had come under attack by another nation. And these are like very powerful people, powerful nation. And they've come to fight. And Israel hasn't got the military might. Actually, Judah doesn't have the military might to really stand against these kings. And so when the threat came, God raised his servant to send word to the king of Judah. And he says, stand. If you do not stand firm in your faith, Isaiah chapter 7 verse 9b, if you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all. I think James puts it this way. that you must have faith and let your faith stand, not going up and down like a yo-yo. I know sometimes it is difficult. I've been there. But then the question is, which one pays? Whenever we stand in faith, it takes away anxiety. It takes away depression. Whenever we put our trust solidly in God, it helps us to navigate very trying times. Even if we do not get the outcome that we wanted, we can understand that God is with us and that He will comfort us. So, in the New Living Bible translation, that same verse that says, if you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand. This is how it reads. You do not believe me, huh? If you want me to protect you, learn to believe what I say. Bottom line. Ladies and gentlemen, all those hearing me, learn to believe what He said. Learn to trust Him. Faith relies on God to fulfill His word and to make the obstacles turn around for His glory. And you know what? In the final analysis, trusting God is not about possessing great faith. It is about small faith in a great God and standing firm in Him. So, I finish this morning. Quit doubting. Stand in your faith. Trust in God and see what He can do. Do not allow yourself to waver. And the book of James chapter 1 says, for a person with divided loyalty is as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is blown and tossed by the wind. You know, the rest of that story was that Jesus raised Lazarus back to life. I'm here to say to somebody, it is not over until it is over. This is not the end of your story. God is working behind the scenes. And in the end, all glory will go to Him and you will rejoice. Stand in your faith. Stand firm in your faith. Don't give up. Don't give in. Help is closer than you can imagine.